Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and discuss a video with you guys. And this is something I've talked about quite a bit in the past, and I've had many good coaches say very similar things over the years. Everyone from Paul Carter when he was doing powerlifting coaching to Dan Green, these guys have all said this same stuff. It's stuff I've found to be true in my own practice, and that is this idea that lockout work and overload work is kind of a waste of time for raw lifters. Keeping in mind, this idea comes from equipped lifting, multiply lifting, to where a guy who can bench 400 pounds benches 700 or 800 when he puts a shirt on. Okay. You have suits to help you get out of the bottom of a lift, in which case it's a different world. We're talking about raw lifting. Usually what happens at the start of a lift is what makes or breaks us. And here's what's silly. This idea, before I even go into the lockout end of why it's ineffective, when you look at hypertrophy, data on hypertrophy, lengthened positions, all that, take something in practice that I think every one of you realize. Take any exercise. And this is going to address the point of, well, you have to get used to that heavy weight. No, you don't. Do you guys recall a few years ago, a couple years back, I didn't touch anything over 570 and I walked into a charity event and deadlifted 625. It had been 6 months since I touched anything heavier than 570. And even the 570 had not been that frequently. Okay? Walked in and pulled 625. And those were singles. That wasn't rep work with 570. Why? Because I was big enough and strong enough to pull 625. Very simple. Okay, I didn't have to get used to 625. I was big enough and strong enough to lift it. So, take any exercise. Let's take 225 pounds, right? 225. Whether it's a bench press, a squat. Let's say you take a bench press and you only work with 225. You don't touch anything heavier. But you build up to where you can do 10 clean pause reps, right? Let's say you take a bench press where you can get tight, you can lower it under control, pause on your chest for 2 seconds, drive it up, lock it out for 10 reps, 10th rep being nice and clean, rack it. Okay? Without grinding, with good controlled 10 reps. Let's say you built up to that and you don't touch anything heavier. Let's say you get up to where you can do 12 reps. Right now we're getting somewhere. Get to where you can do 12 reps. 225. Say you do the same thing with a squat. Let's take it where if you can build your squat up to say 12 reps on an ass to grass squat. Full resets. Right, you come to the top, take a deep breath, come back down. You can get 3 inches below parallel. You can sink it. You can come up. You do 12 reps. Same thing with the bench. Get up to where you do 12. Let's make it nice and fair. Either one of those lifts. How about even the deadlift? Same thing. Build up to where you can do it. Don't touch any weight heavier than that. Walk over and put 315 on the bar after you're done fresh. New day. Anyone doubt that they're going to lift it? And I don't mean touching you bounced it. I mean you did 12 beautiful pause reps on the bench, under control. Do you think 315 is going to be excessively difficult for you to come in and do? Same thing on your squat. I understand if it's a lift that has specific bar paths you got to work with. Okay. All right. Squat, same thing. Do you really think you're going to struggle with 315? Do you really think it's going to be impossible? Even though you've not touched a full plate, you've done a full plate less than that per side for all this rep work. Are you going to come in and lift 315? Of course you are. All right, let's take 405. Build up to 10 reps with 405. Say 12 reps with 405. Same way. You think you're going to get 5 plates? You think you can come in at a plate on? Without getting used to the weight? Of course you can. You've gained the muscle and strength to do it. All right. Same thing when we start talking about a lot of this lockout work. And before I'm going to answer that, someone's going to chime in and say, well, I've done that. No, you didn't. Because people say that, well, I deadlift or lift whatever, and I can't add that full plate. Well, what did your reps look like? I described full resets, right? No straps on that deadlift, full resets, not real long pauses. Okay. Same thing with your squat, same thing with your benching, pause reps. Obviously, touch and go doesn't carry over. So you come over and you do this lockout work. Let's say your max deadlift is, 455, right? You come over, you start doing some rack pulls. You do 495 for some sets of 5 or 6. The fact that you can do that, but then you struggle with a lockout, does it mean your lockout's weak, or does it mean that you're just not strong enough to lift it? Because if your lockout was weak and you were not able to lock out 495, let's say you keep missing lockouts when you try to go anything over 455, or you grind the lockout with 455. Is it because your lockout is weak, or because you used up all your strength out of the bottom? You don't have enough force production to sustain the bar speed for the lockout because you're too weak further down. I think that's what it is. And if it was a different muscle, people say, well, different muscles are used. Okay, so let's say on your deadlift, it's your glutes. That's what's limiting the lockout. Do you think that lockout work is going to build the glutes? Are you putting the glutes into a lengthened position to build them more? No. Same thing with the triceps. I think you should be doing some deep stretch movements for the triceps. Then maybe you should do some skull crushers, some JM presses. If your lockouts are failing on the bench like that. Should probably, if you think it's the triceps limiting you, or you think it's the glutes limiting you on the deadlift, shouldn't you train those muscles? Shouldn't you just get those muscles bigger and stronger? Yeah, I think that's what you should do. A whole lot of world-class raw coaches agree. A whole lot of them. This stuff is carryovers. It's holdovers from the equipped lifting world. Right? I'm not talking about bands or chains. That's its own separate beast for force production. But these partials, these half reps, it's not going to make you don't have to get used to the weight. You just need to be strong enough to lift it. And you can do that with your rep work, with your hypertrophy work, and general full range of motion exercises. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. I'll talk to you guys next time.